And we are joined by Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former senior diplomat, to discuss, the surface level negotiations and the deeper dynamics on whether peace is achievable in Ukraine. Thank you, Ambassador Trigunayat. Now, Russia is in a position to drag this out without committing. What concrete measures could shift the Kremlin's calculus towards, some sort of compromise rather than prolonging the talks?
Well, I think that, as you know, that this 28-point peace plan, which was basically an extension of the Alaska talks between President Trump and President Putin, had been passed on to Ukraine as it is. And then it was discussed in Geneva with the Europeans, who were not very happy about it. Eventually, it has been brought down to 19 points. And out of that also, there are several points which are, of course, deep concern to both sides. While Russia wants to retain the complete territory and want the Ukrainians to withdraw from certain parts of the territories, cede certain territories, the exchange of the territories, in order to have the uniformity for itself as far as the buffer zone is concerned. It doesn't want to cede on that dimension. At the same time, it wants Ukraine to reduce its army by one-third.
Right.
That is another thing which is then there is also that this particular deal that will be signed and agreed will have to be eventually within 3 months or something, has to be endorsed by the Ukrainian parliament
True.
or after the elections. Now, those are very difficult decisions for Zelensky, despite being in the corner. And he has been placed in corner, of course, by President Trump, who wants the peace at any cost.
Right.
So therefore, there are both sides have these sensitivities which will have to be addressed, and that's a very difficult
True,
task.
but
At the moment,
right,
in
actually,
principle,
Ambassador Trigunayat, the Ukrainians seem to have accepted the 19 points. And, the revised peace framework, it waters down the territorial concessions, and military restrictions that Russia was looking for. So how do negotiators ensure that this can become workable and enforceable also?
if you were to believe Mr. Lavrov, it seems that these 19-point plan, which is a revised plan, which is not exactly what the Russians or the Americans had proposed, has still not been shared with the Russians.
Okay.
So they have had no time to look at it also. In the meantime, President Trump has asked Witkoff and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to travel to Russia next week to work it out with President Putin. So at the end of the day, it will be President Putin's call whether he wishes to continue. Both sides have made the right noises that they are ready for peace, they are ready for negotiations. Hopefully, those are honest and sincere efforts on the part of both sides. Because on the one hand, we see the Europeans completely egging on to Ukraine to continue to fight for the best and whatever it is. But of course, everybody has agreed that the Ukraine will not be a part of NATO. There will be certain security guarantees which will be given by United States and the Europeans. And secondly, that the Russians have agreed, basically in principle, that Ukraine can join the European Union if it so wishes. And that's what President Putin on many occasions has said it. The idea is that somehow or the other, this should happen. It's been a long time. And I think that even the Russians want a peace despite being in a slightly advantageous position.
Okay, and the Russians being offered a phased return to the G8 as part of, the peace talks. Is that pragmatic, and could it lead to de-escalation? Is it incentivizing enough for the Russians?
Well, there are several dimensions, and I think that you can't leave Russia out if you are looking at the global dimension. I mean, basically, throwing out Russia and putting it out of the whole SWIFT system and the kind of sanctions and confiscation of their funds that have been entirely to punish Russia, but that has not happened. So the Western countries have also realized Russia better engaged is a more favorable thing than keeping them completely out, because in that sense they go more closer to China, and that changes the complete equation of the West. And therefore they are wanting that, but Germany is not in favor. They don't want to reward Russia for aggression against Ukraine. So
Right.
There are several European countries who don't want it, but of course, President Trump has offered that as an incentive.
And well, Ukraine is looking for that Western pressure from Europe to back its demand, for full sovereignty and territorial integrity. Now, does Zelensky actually have public support to compromise at all on this in his own country?
Well, Zelensky has very clearly said that legally there is no question of them ceding the territory. That's not allowed as per their constitution, and he will not do it. But what happens is that there is a de facto situation. De facto situation is that Russia is in control of these territories and has taken over. Now, certain parts in Donetsk were 75, 80%. There it wants 100%. But that is the sticking point. It will be very difficult to sell it to his constituency and the people in Ukraine that that Ukraine has ceded the territory, even the ones which was in its own control.
Finally, Ambassador Trigunayat, Putin's appearances in military uniform on the front line and command posts, does this send out a message for peace? I mean, it seems to suggest that Moscow views, the battlefield outcomes as more important than diplomacy.
You see, for Russia, if you look at it from their perspective, they are looking at it this war against the West and especially the Europeans. They are not looking at it as a war, rather a special operation against Ukraine. But in totality, they consider it as something against the whole of Europe, and they are ready to take it on if necessary. And so, therefore, he is projecting power, whichever way. At the moment, they have an upper hand, but in the war, things could change. Because the United States has today decided that it will not support Ukraine in the war effort. And of course, it wants peace. President Trump wants this, this peace to prevail. That is something he had even said even before he became the president. If he was the president, this war would not have happened. And one could concede that, possibly. But I believe that it's a very, very difficult situation, but let's hope and pray that the peace somehow is achieved.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, looking at ways to achieve peace in the Ukraine.